How would you like to earn more money by being a better boss? Hey, this is Jared Krause, host of the Buying Online Businesses podcast. And in this episode, I'm speaking with Chris Ducker, who is an in-demand world-class speaker, international bestseller, runs 3 seven-figure businesses, has over 7 million podcasts, and is changing the game of online entrepreneurship. In this podcast episode, Chris and I speak about his experience buying a business, what he learnt, and what you can learn from his experience when you're buying your first business as well. Chris and I dive into a similar shared experience that we had around burnout in our business, overworking. We talk about how it happens, why it happens, how to avoid it, and what you can actually learn from it, how it can shape you as a better business owner and can help you grow. Not to say that you should go through this and you should achieve burnout. If you can avoid it at all costs, please do learn from our lessons, but there's so much value to learn from what we talk about in that scenario through this podcast. We'll talk about how to hire people, not just to give work to people, but hire people to excel and push your business forward into growth. We talk about what tasks you should actually be hiring and when you should be hiring people for those tasks, and also why you should be hiring for those tasks versus some other tasks that you should keep for yourself. We also talk about why you should pay your workers more, which will allow you to still get a better return on your investment when you do pay them more. We also talk about a winning mindset around being a boss and how to get the best from your workers so you can earn more money through your business and have more fun. This is such a valuable episode. You guys are absolutely going to love it. Go away and check it out. Do you want to build or grow your content website? Niche website builders have helped hundreds of people to take their content websites from a few $100s per month to over tens of thousands of dollars per month with crafted content creation, buying aged domains, and link building strategies. These strategies have helped people increase their traffic, authority, monthly earnings, and their website valuation too. Head to nichewebsite.builders/BOB/ to get 10% off any link building or 10% more from their content creation services. That's nichewebsite.builders/Bob/. I'll put a link in the description too. Chris, welcome to the Buying Online Business podcast. It's great to have you here.
Yeah, it's good to be here. Thanks for having me.
First question I want to ask you is around acquiring businesses. A lot of people are very interested in buying businesses. It's the name of the show, obviously. And then we're going to quickly segue into some growth because that's your main thing is you've helped so many people scale businesses. And there's so much to unpack there. But have you ever bought a business before?
I have indeed. Yes, one. I bought one business.
Congratulations. And were there any hardships? What was the hardest part about it for you?
I think the hardest part for me was the waiting side of things. I think that, us entrepreneurs, we want to move quickly, don't we? You know what I mean? Particularly when we're bootstrap type entrepreneurs, like I am. I've set up and grown several businesses in the last 18 years. And what attracted me to buying another business was the ability to be able to scale very quickly by doing so, obviously, right? As we all know, you inherit staff, you inherit clients, you inherit systems and processes, and not just income, right? So that was the big reason why we made the acquisition that we did. But with that being said, though, it took too long. It's like all that due diligence and the accounting stuff and everything that goes along with audits and, negotiations and everything. It ended up being like a all in all from kind of beginning to end. It was like an 8-9 month ordeal for me. And I often look back and think, man, if I could have just gotten my hands on the reins properly a lot sooner on, things could have, got moving a lot faster. It was frustration. That was the biggest problem. Frustration on getting started, really, more than anything.
Yeah. And if you had have maybe in hindsight had known the process so you could streamline it and move through it faster, you could get through that next step, right? Was this an acquisition that you went out and you tried to find a deal to purchase, or was this something that came across and you're like, this would be a good investment?
It was very interesting, actually, because I had been looking for a while and kind of gave up, quite frankly. I couldn't find what I was looking for after a good 8, 9 months or so of looking, almost a year of looking actually, and genuinely like actually actively looking, speaking with people regularly, going to events regularly, putting myself into situations where I thought we would be able to find something pretty regularly. And I kind of just gave up. Nothing really. There was two or three kind of close hits, but which turned out to be misses. And then something just literally landed on my lap. I was at a dinner party, and one thing led to another, and I was sat, opposite to uh, to somebody that I ended up buying this business from. So yeah, it's quite serendipitous when I look back on it.
It's probably from all that compounding of all the energy that you put out there to attract that, hey, I'm open to buy a business,
Yeah.
right? So I wanted to,
Yeah, I tend not to do kind of like rah rah, but I think maybe the universe was on my side on at that dinner. It was giving me what I was putting out there for a while. It was coming back to me.
yeah, it sounds like it. I just want to highlight this for everybody listening is because, you went through that period of 9 months, close to a year of looking for a business and they went, oh, well, this is really, really hard. I'm so glad that one did come across you and you purchased it because there are so many people that go, oh, I want to buy something. And they look at this thing for 3 months and they go, oh, this isn't, I can't make money quickly here. And then they just leave. When in the
Yep.
fourth month or the fifth month, they could have gone away and found something. It's, that's the reason most people fail in business, right? Is because they get so close to that obstacle or overcoming it and then they leave. And they miss out on all that compounding growth and all the things that they've done to have to go away and start again and again and again and again, which we'll probably come back to in our conversation around how hard it is in business when you just move from next thing to next thing as you and I entrepreneurs trying to like contain our energy in one focused direction so we can get the best results. But what was it for you that made you move into business and being a business owner versus say the regular 9 to 5?
I think it was honestly, it was also frustration. I want to try and get across. I'm not a super frustrated guy, but I think what it was, I'd been in the sales and marketing industry my entire career,
Mm,
and at the time of deciding to walk away from that quote unquote steady income, I was working with a small business based over in Miami. Very, very successful business, multi-million dollar business, but relatively small. And the guy that was heading it up, the owner of the business, was away from work, super cool dude. Like I'd fly into Miami, for 2, 3 weeks at a time. We'd work with each other on stuff. It was in the infomercial business. So one minute we'd be writing scripts, the next minute we'd be casting, next minute I'd be in an audio booth recording voiceovers, then in the afternoon I'd be on the phone with distributors in Europe closing deals, all that. It was very much a kind of all hands on deck scenario, which was great and I had no problems with. And like I said, away from business, super cool guy. Floor seats at the Miami Heat games, Prince's Priest Super Bowl show. I mean, like you name it, I was there, right?
nice.
Um, but then the moment we went into work mode, he was just a complete nightmare to work with. Real micromanager, and to the point where I'd have to copy him in on every email I sent, that kind of stuff. So I was on my way back from Miami. I was based over in the Philippines at the time, and I was on my way back from Miami. I was at 37,000 feet on a Cathay Pacific flight, and I was like, you know what, I'm done. I was over there for a month. I'm done. So I wrote the email on the plane. When I landed in Hong Kong, I hit send, thanks to the Wi-Fi in the airport, and that was it. I took about a month and a half off, just relaxed, kind of rebuilt that mental bandwidth a little bit, and then started you know, taking big, fast action. And within a matter of 45 days, we were up and running with our first kind of medium-sized business. I should also say as well, I did have a consultancy that had been running for several years prior to this moment, where I was, kind of doing extra work on the side, very much working for myself. But ultimately, it was a very, very good paycheck. I was bringing in a lot of business for him. I got great bonuses, but I was done. I was frustrated working for somebody else. I figured if I'm going to work 10-hour days, I'm going to do it for myself moving forward. And that's exactly what we did. We set up our first mid-sized business. It was a call center. It's still up and running now. It has 350 employees, and it's a multi seven figure business on a revenue basis. So yeah, it was a good call. Put it that way, Jerry.
You, um, yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure. And then all the other things that you've followed with, but it sounds like you would have
Yep.
drawn so much from that position and working with that business owner that would have set yourself up to not be that type of micromanager in running the
Oh yeah,
firms
without a
that you
doubt.
have now,
Yeah.
which we'll talk about shortly. What I'm curious about is because I've had a very similar thing happen to me than what happened to you with your injury from working so much, sitting in a chair for so long, and the burnout. Personally, I went and got myself glandular fever because I was working so hard. And I found out a year later that it turned into Epstein-Barr virus before I even knew about it, which was ridiculous. But I want to ask you about your injury and why burnout, why you think burnout happened for you, and then what you learned from that and how that made you a better entrepreneur.
Well, now I know exactly why it happened. I was so focused on building the business the first couple of years that it was up and running that I just worked my way into burnout. Really, that simple. I was wearing all the hats. We were bootstrapping. One minute I was setting up, or helping to set up an IT network. The next minute I was interviewing salespeople. In the afternoon, I'd be training those people, and in the evening, I'd be making calls to prospective clients and closing deals. I mean, I was doing everything. It was a
Mm.
15-hour day, 6 days a week for 2 years in a row. Um, and that's why I burnt out. I wasn't working out, wasn't eating well. I was drinking too much coffee. It's really just, that kind of domino stack scenario of just one thing on top of another, and it was all going to come crashing down sooner or later. And here's the thing: in retrospect, I felt it coming. I knew it was going to happen, but I didn't stop. I didn't hit the pause and try and avoid it. And so, yeah, and the burnout happened. I was in hospital. I was on fluids, and antidepressants and all that kind of stuff for a short period of time. And then the real part of the burnout hit me about a year and a half later, which was the back surgery. It was that kind of like ongoing result of sitting in that chair for so long, crushing the bottom of my spine, quite frankly, where I needed to have an L5S1 spinal fusion, which is, without getting too gory, they rip out the disc in between your two lower vertebrae, and they put an implant in. They stick it together with rods and screws, and then slowly but surely that implant fuses into a calcium deposit bone type material, and then it fixes itself. And I've been fine. It was 10 years ago, actually, almost to the day. About a couple of months from now, it'll be 10 years that I had that operation. But I'm fine now, no problem at all. But that was a final result of the burnout.
Yeah, it's crazy that you can work so much that you put yourself. It happens to like most of us that we work so much and we just completely ignorant to like, oh, how's my health intake? How's my my sleep going?
Yeah.
How's my food intake and all that sort of stuff. And then it's just too late. And I had this similar thing where I got Epstein Barr virus, and it took me like a year to sort of start to get to a point where I could just be able to surf longer than 30 minutes. And even now, still, it can affect me if I work too much. And I've had to put in good boundaries in place to ensure that I work less and have more fulfillment and don't expend too much energy in the wrong areas. Is that something that you've learnt to do because of your burnout? Like, did you force that? This obviously forced you to pull back on work hours and all that sort of stuff. But what are some of the things that you have worked for you in terms of boundaries that have helped you become a better business owner and have more time and more fulfillment from work?
I mean, I think it's looking back on it, and still now today, it's a combination of, first and foremost, priorities to me personally have become a lot more kind of important. That, number one, I'm the first priority. Um, if I'm not in good shape mentally, physically, emotionally, then that's not going to help anybody else, right? My family, the business, our clients, whatever it is. So I've become the first priority. And when you take that stance, you realize actually that all those things do have a compound effect. Whereas if I don't get enough sleep, I'm not going to have enough energy to perform during the daytime. If I eat crap, then clearly I'm going to gain weight and I'm going to be unhealthy. If I don't move my body very regularly, I work out 4 times a week. I'm no intention of wanting to be the next, Arnie or anything like that. But I work hard 4 times a week for an hour. And if I don't take time away from the business as well, and do other things that fire me up, to use Marie Kondo's popular colloquialism, spark joy, right?
Mm.
If I don't do things away from the business that do exactly that and allow me to hit that mental bandwidth reset button as well, then I'm not prioritizing things the way I should. For me, those two things are bonsai. I practice bonsai, and secondly, sketching. I'm an urban sketcher, so those two things kind of take me away from work. And when I'm drawing a building, or when I am wiring a tree, or repotting a tree, or whatever it is that I'm doing, that's just me doing exactly what I'm doing right there and then. I never think about business ever when I'm doing either of those two activities. And so it allows me to switch off mentally and just be in the moment for once. And then, the flip side to that also is with the business side of things, you make decisions, you make calls, and you put things in place to make sure that those non-negotiables don't get swayed, or they're not off target. So first up, I've not worked a Friday for about 6 years now. Um, I only work 10 through till 4 p.m. every day, Monday to Thursday. I take a quarterly getaway, a 1 week getaway with my family every quarter. We do a annual sabbatical in the entire month of August where I'm off the grid. And I take 3 full weeks over Christmas and New Year to be able to be with family as well. So all of these things stuck together mean that, when I am on work hours, I'm super productive.
Mm.
And, my schedule is jam packed full Monday to Thursday, 10 till 4. Everything gets scheduled. If it doesn't get scheduled, it doesn't get done. So everything goes on the schedule. Everything goes on the schedule. And at the end of the day, that's one of the reasons why I can run all these different businesses, why I can invest and advise several other businesses, and still spend quality time on myself and with my family, and doing everything that I'm doing with our clients. So this isn't an overnight thing, though, right? Like, understand this has happened over the course of the last like 8 or 9 years. You know what I mean?
And yeah, and through the experience of like, oh crap, I've worked too much. Oh crap, like these Fridays don't, I'd rather not have Fridays off. You sort of integrate it in over that time span.
Yeah, yeah,
I've been
yeah.
prescribed by one of my mentors 4 critical things that I need to do is I need to surf first and foremost. I need to travel. I need to play tennis, and I need to not work. and if I can and if I can do those priority and then have some more productive time with work, and I actually sometimes, in 2021, I tested out, how little can I work, and how much will my business grow because of how little I worked, because I'm focusing on what I like to call ITF, important tasks first, rather than all the other mundane things that can be,
Mhm.
outsourced and hired out, which I want to segue into because you you don't just get to, hey, all this travel that you're doing, Chris, not working Fridays and all these other cool things that you get to do, hang out with your family, without having a team, right? Something else I've also learned is if you don't have team, you don't have time. So how important it is for an online business to hire virtual team members, do you feel?
Well, it depends on how quickly you want to grow and how much
Mm,
you want to work. I mean, it's important if that's part of your plan, right? I know many people who run six-figure businesses based around their expertise, which is ultimately what I mentor folks in more than anything else nowadays. Who it's just them and one virtual assistant, and they
simple.
bring in, yeah, they bring in 6 figures plus per
Minimal
year.
stress.
yeah, their profit margins are like 75%,
Yeah.
and everyone's happy. You know what I mean? Like whatever gets you going, right? Like it's all
Yeah.
good. You don't need to make $1 million. You don't need to make 500,000. You can make, whatever you feel is a comfortable living and live, and work 1 day a week. And if that's your jam, then hey, I'll help you achieve it. Plain simple. But if it is your plan, to spread your message further, to spread your impact further, to make more money, to utilize that money to be able to, help other people, whether it be through, philanthropic work or, charitable donations, whatever it might be. If that's your plan, then yeah, a team is absolutely essential. In 2014, I wrote a book called Virtual Freedom, which many believe is, the Bible to outsourcing. Even folks that worked relatively closely with very large authors of the time. I won't sort of drop names or anything, but have said that it's kind of like
Drop
what
away.
the outsourcing. Well, it's many people have said that it's what the outsourcing life section of the 4 Hour Work Week should have
Yeah.
been on steroids.
Yeah.
And so, it's a book that certainly has changed many, many, many lives. We sold over, I don't know, it's got to be close to a couple of 100,000 copies now across the board
Congrats.
in, I think, like 9 different languages or something. So when, that book came about because of the fact that I'd been involved in the outsourcing industry. We've got, one of our companies is Virtual Staff Finder,
Yeah.
which is a VA recruiting company, which has been running for 12 years now. And, I wouldn't have written that book, Jared, if I didn't think that it was going to help people. Writing a book is hard. Writing a book with 60,000 words is freaking hard, right?
Yeah.
And so I believe that, the importance of building a business is one thing, but the importance of building it in a smart, savvy manner is a whole different kettle of fish. And yes, the team will certainly help you get there a lot faster. That's for sure.
Yeah, I've personally been putting up a book because I don't just want to throw out something that's been done by a ghostwriter and doesn't have any real rawness
Yeah.
to it and real value. Like you said, you only get to selling hundreds of thousands of copies because you put in your time yourself. Uh, I like that you said, you can have a good six-figure income, one VA, and not too much stress and low profit margins. But there are people that want to go to the next level. There are people that want to get that broader reach. And I like the way you framed it is that, you can hire people if you want to grow your business. Whereas most people may have the mindset of, oh, I've got too much, I got to wait until I've got too much work. And then I've got work to give to the person. So I'd love you to talk to that in terms of how do you work out who your next hire would be that can help you grow your business instead of having the mindset of, I'm got to try and find more work to be able to afford to pay somebody to do that work.
So in the book, right at the beginning of the book, actually, I get everybody to do an exercise called the 3 lists to freedom. And it pops up several times in the book because it's that important. I still do this myself all these years later, twice a year, because we all fall into bad habits, right?
Yeah,
I don't care if you're Sir Richard Branson, Elon Musk, or any other successful dude out there. Like you're going to fall into bad habits from time
of
to time.
course.
You really are. And if you say you don't, you're lying, plain and simple. And so
Which
the
is
three
worse
list of
because you're lying
freedom
to
is,
yourself.
yeah, well, exactly right. 3 lists of freedom, very, very simple. And this exercise actually will become a blueprint that you can follow to outsource and delegate a lot of your business tasks. Um, and here's the really good thing about it. Before I go through it very quickly, um, you don't need to do it all at once. You can actually plan out the delegation that this creates, this blueprint that creates for you over 6 months or even a year if you want to. Like this isn't a kind of one and done, let's get it all sorted now kind of thing. So it's very simple. You get a piece of paper and you draw 2 lines down it, creating 3 columns. In the first column, you write down all the stuff that you're doing day to day that you hate doing. And I don't use that word lightly. My mother used to say that you should never use the word hate. It's a very, very harsh word. And there are things that we hate doing in our business. We know this, right? So
Yes.
that's the first stuff, the stuff that you just despise, but you have to do it. because your business is demanding that you do it for
Mm-hmm.
one reason or another. The second list, second column, is all the stuff that you feel you might not necessarily hate doing, but you struggle doing. You're not very good at these things. I often joke and say that unless you're a graphic designer, you've got no place being in Photoshop designing a logo kind of thing, right? Just because you don't necessarily mind doing it doesn't necessarily mean that you should be doing it either, right?
Of course.
So that's the second column is a list of all the stuff that you kind of struggle that you're not very good at, but you're doing it anyway. And then the third list is the most important list, the list that you should focus on above and beyond everything else. This is, get out your beer, get out your wine, get out your coffee, your tea, whatever your beverage of choice is. I'm a bourbon guy. You sit down and you write down all the stuff that you feel as the owner, as the head honcho, that you should not be doing. That your time could be better spent doing more high level activities like
Mm.
spending more time with your top 20% clientele or developing new programs and products and services or launching new businesses or whatever it is, right? And those three lists, like I said, become a blueprint for you to start figuring out what you should be delegating. And no, you don't need to hire somebody full time. You don't even need to hire somebody part time. You can bring somebody in on a task by task or project by project basis until you're at a position where the workload is enough to be able to hire somebody either part or full time, and when you can afford to do that as well.
Mm.
So yeah, it doesn't take a lot to get going with your delegation and your outsourcing.
I love that you talked about the first column, the things that you absolutely don't like doing. This is something that I prescribe to some of my clients that I coach is that let's make that list. And if you get the things that you don't like doing off your plate, then you start to focus on the things that, and also the second column of things that you can do, but it's a bit frustrating. You get those out of the way, and your business becomes that much more fulfilling, which means you can withstand staying in business a lot longer, and you've got more energy and drive to grow that business forward, right?
Exactly. And not only that, but you will be a more positive person as a direct result. You will be more positive in your environment.
Mm,
You will be more positive in your relationships, personal and business. You'll just be a more energetic, more fun individual to be around, and that will pay dividends for years to come. Obviously, particularly when it comes to relationships. I'm a big believer that relationships should be treasured; they shouldn't be used. And in this online business world, everybody's trying to use each other. Everyone's
yeah.
trying to get access to each other's lists and audiences and all this kind of crap. This is one of the reasons why I don't do affiliate offers, quite frankly.
Yeah.
I could run an affiliate offer to my audience 3 times a week. Every single week of the year, I get contacted that much. But people follow me for me
Yeah.
and what I'm all about, and what I can do, and what my businesses can do for them. So it's very rare that I will put them in front of somebody else's audience or somebody else's business. Very, very rare indeed. It does happen on occasion with close friends and relationships that I feel really confident about, but not very often at all. I can count on one hand how many times it's happened in the last decade, put it that way.
Well, I really like that because then you're starting to touch on personal brand as well. Like, if you don't want to just be, you're not focused on just making as much money through this one channel that you're in, you just want to make it the most valuable channel. And, you're not clouding or muddying the water by just throwing in some affiliate deals along the way.
Yeah.
And I think that really tells people a lot about yourself and who they're listening to from other podcasts and whatnot, about how much value they're actually bringing and focusing on not just making a bunch of money because they're building a list and that's what it's there to do, rather than
Yeah.
yeah. So with the hiring, coming back to the hiring, what mistakes do people make or can be avoided when they're going to start hiring, maybe their first or second or third VA, in some of these tasks, even these mundane
I think
tasks?
a lot of mistakes come down not to the VA. They come down to the bots,
I
quite
like it.
frankly. Um, and there's two big things that really pop up over and over and over again. The first thing is that, particularly if they're making their first or their second hire, um, they a lot of people think that they can get one person to do like three people's jobs. And it always makes me giggle because you don't do that in the real world. You
Yes.
just don't.
People
You
have a
don't.
career, they stay in their path.
Right. So, if you're, I don't know, for example, let's say you're running a real estate business, you would hire a salesperson to sell or to get people to rent properties. You would hire a web developer to update your website on a regular basis with all the new properties that you've taken on board. And you would hire somebody else to pick up the phone and take messages and follow up proposals and contracts and all the rest of it. You wouldn't hire one person to do all that work. It just wouldn't happen. But for some reason in the virtual staffing world, people think that you can hire one person to edit YouTube videos, to do SEO on websites, to update social media, and a host of other work as well. So that's the big mistake. I call it the myth of the super VA. It doesn't exist.
Yeah.
And so you've got to hire for the role, not for the task. That's the big takeaway there. The other really big mistake is lack of onboarding and lack of training. People think that they're going to hire somebody, they're going to pop that magic pill, and they're going to get to work straight away and know how to do everything perfectly straight out of the gate. Doesn't happen either. Um, you know, You'd be amazed though. I mean, it happens every day. We see it at Virtual Staff Finder.
Mm.
Every single day, we've got people coming back. Oh, they put this spreadsheet together for me, and it was, the colors were red and blue, and our corporate colors are green and yellow, and all this sort of. He was Arial size 12 instead of Times Roman 10. Well,
Whoa.
first of all, dude, it's 2022. What are you doing using Times Roman for a start? And secondly, like, understand something that just because they know how to do the job doesn't mean they know how to do it for you.
Yeah.
That's the thing. Everybody's got their own way of doing things, and you need to show your new hires exactly how you like things done. Whether you do it personally or whether you've got, video training or somebody else that's going to train somebody up, whatever the case may be. The fact of the matter is they're the two big mistakes: that super VA myth, and then expecting that you don't have to onboard or train somebody to get them to do the work that they've been hired to do.
Yeah, the onboarding thing is one of the biggest pieces of the puzzle that's I think is missing. And if it's not done, that's what causes so much of the frustration around hiring for people that are trying to build a
Totally.
team of
Yeah.
like, oh, I
Totally.
found somebody and it worked for a bit, and then I've got to find somebody again and and I have to train people every single time they hire. Whereas if they understand they have a good onboarding system and good SOPs, that hiring can be actually fun because you can just test out who's the best person and work with the best person without having to add any additional time to your schedule, right?
Yeah, and the other thing is like, number one, by not doing it properly, you will lose money. That's a given. It's a costly exercise. But secondly, way more importantly than that, you'll lose time, and time is
Mm,
our most valuable commodity as entrepreneurs. You can make more money easily enough. You can't. You can't make time. Like, you can't bring back the time that you've spent or invested in something and get a do over. It doesn't work that way with
mm.
the clock. So they're the two really big things that we see people struggle with the most. And the other thing is, also paying people. They again, they think, because the person's virtual, and a lot of the time you'll be hiring out of places like the Philippines, which is still a relatively developing country, even though it's quite westernized in its approach to everybody speaks English. And well, I lived in the Philippines for 18 years, so I mean, I've got a bit, my wife is a Filipino, my kids are got Filipino blood in them, so it's like,
Yeah.
I've got an affinity with Philippines and Filipino people. And I'm telling you right now, people just full out take the piss, quite frankly.
It's sad.
They hire somebody to do a job and they expect to be able to pay $5 an hour, um, to 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 get this person to fundamentally help them run, support, and grow their business, when that person should be getting double that. They should be getting it. So hire for the role, not for the task. Make sure you spend time onboarding and training people properly, and pay them what they're worth, not what you want necessarily to pay them. You can't put a You can put a dollar amount on good people, but I mean, it genuinely, that's a big thing. Let me tell you something. If you don't pay them right, they won't stick around because they will carry on looking for what they're worth. And when they find it, they'll be off, plain and simple. So you want to pay people. In fact, my rule is that I'll pay them what they're worth plus 20% because I never want them to leave.
I think that's a good rule. The plus 20% rule is good. And I think people don't understand the value of keeping people long, like virtual assistants long term. Like, because there's all these other little things that just don't fit in between the SOPs that they learn about your brand, that are sort of
Mhm,
soft
mhm.
sort of skills that take somebody else, a new hire, to learn so much more. And think in fact, you're actually going to have a better ROI keeping that person on and paying them
Yeah,
more than going back to the drawing board.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And I think I'm also a big advocate of when we hire people, we have this mindset. I shouldn't say we, but some people have this mindset that they work for you and you give them tasks and they just need to get the job done and you've got nothing to do with it. But in fact, if you have a mixed mindset about you working for them, the more you help them and the better. And what this can be, not just your time, it can be systems and things that you give them in terms of incentives and whatnot. The more you work for them, the better job they're going to do as well. And they're going to want to stay longer. You're going to want to pay them more. I think there's so many myths and so many mindset shifts that people should have around a virtual team that would be beneficial to their business and their team.
Absolutely. And people make mistakes. You know, the most important thing is you learn from those mistakes. You don't repeat them over and over again. But one thing is certain, like, you know, if you really want to truly scale a business and grow a business, you ain't going to be able to do it on your own. You are going to have to hire other talent. So even if you do have one or two bad experiences, don't give up. You know, the diamonds are out there. They are out there to be found. And you've just got to make sure that you continue the work to find them. When you do find them, you polish them up and you take good care of them.
Yeah, exactly. Now, I want to touch on branding real quick. Personal branding, it's not just about creating content on one subject and having a logo and some colors, right? So what would be some key elements that go actually into building a solid brand? Maybe some stories, and I'll let you dive into it.
Well, I mean, yeah, if you think of it really, a personal brand is what people say about you when you're not around, right?
Yeah.
So it's when you're not at the business conference and your name pops up in conversation, what are people talking about? When you're not at the coffee meeting or the dinner party, and somebody mentions your name, like how are people talking about you? Is it a
Mm.
positive conversation? Is it a kind of negative, kind of gossip type conversation? And more importantly, what are you known for? That's ultimately what a personal brand is. It's what you're known for. What do people come to you for over and over and over again? And that's the business side of a personal brand. And then the personal side of that personal brand is your personality. You know, the good news is no matter what niche you're in, no matter what industry you're serving, regardless of how many competitors there are out there, there's only one you. And when you build the business of you, it's 100% original. And you need to get that into your head from day one because people want to do business with other people. I don't think people really want to do business with big brands anymore. When you open a bank account and you open an account and you know that bank will have your business immediately overnight. But in terms of getting loans, getting cards set up, understanding investment opportunities, building out a portfolio, all that stuff,
Mm.
that's not with the bank. That's with the people, that's with your relationship manager
Yes.
at the bank, right? And so I think personality comes into play, your background, your stories, your vibe, what you're all about. Um, you know, I call it like marketing like a magnet. You attract the best and you repel the rest, just
Ooh.
like a magnet does.
Ooh.
And so you attract the people that are all about you and your vibe and what you stand for. But at the exact same time, you are repelling away the folks that don't get you, that don't like you, quite frankly. We don't need to be liked by everybody. We just need to become somebody's favorite
Yeah.
enough times to build up a decent sized audience, community, customer base, whatever you want to call it. And so, that's why I put it out there. When I'm being interviewed, when I'm on stage, when I'm speaking, when I'm running my own events, when I'm creating content, when I'm talking on my podcast, when I'm shooting videos, all that stuff. I'm a quirky dude. I like to make silly dad jokes. I've got 4 kids. I think I've earned the right to do that. And so, I'll go ahead and drop those silly dad jokes. I'm also a fan of building Lego with my children. So I talk about the Lego sets,
Yeah.
that we've picked up. I do show myself pruning and wiring bonsai trees. I do enjoy sharing my bourbon and single malt purchases on social media. So all of these things compound into a personality that people can really um, either relate to or not relate to. There's no gray area. There's no messy middle. And that's why, when I hold events, and even when I speak, I've come down off stages before all around the world, and people have like given me Lego sets. They've actually come
Love
to the
it.
event with a Lego set for me
Love
and
it.
given me a Lego set. Or I've had bottles of 18-year Glenfiddich with my name on the label. People have
Wow.
personalized and given to me, and all these other. So they know I'm a Scotch guy. They know I'm a Lego guy. I want somebody to buy me like a 50-year-old, you know, Japanese maple bonsai. It cost about 10 grand, but if anybody out there wants to give me that, then bring it my way, kind of thing, right? Like these are the things. These are the things that like really make me me.
Yeah.
And you attach that to my experience, and what I can do for you as an entrepreneur,
Mm.
then that's a very, very powerful proposition for the right person to invest in themselves. And we are in an environment today where we are more likely to invest in springboarding our own growth by working with coaches and mentors and consultants that have been there and done it already than we ever have been before in the history of the world. I don't know how much money, Jared, I've invested in working with mentors and being part of a mastermind and things like that. But if I had to put a dollar amount on it, including things like hotels and travel to get to certain places and things like that, I reckon I've dumped about 500,000 into that
Probably
development
more,
over the
right? Like
last
then
10 to
that you do a
15
lot of
years.
travel.
Probably more. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Probably more. Exactly. And so, you know, you've got to look at that and ask yourself, why am I doing it? And you're doing it because it allows you to go further, faster. And that's, one of the things that I know that our people sign up to us for
Mm.
at the Upreneur Incubator with our program, because people want to go from 6 to multi 6 to 7. They want to go from 7 to 8 figures. And you can't do that on your own. You need to be surrounded by people that are on a similar journey, A, and B, you need to surround yourself with people that have already done what you want to do. Don't get so proud that you don't ask for help when you need it, because that will stunt your growth. That's 100% dead cert right there.
Mm. Yeah. Oh, that's just so good and so juicy for us to go chew on the personal branding. I think people get a flavor of Chris Ducker or Jared Krause, and that's what may draw people in for the attraction, but they may stay as well because of that thing, and then they build the trust and use you as a springboard to get to the next level. And one of the key things here, guys, is spend some money on some mentors. It's one of the most valuable thing, like Chris, who can help you with your personal brand. And I will be linking to Youpreneur, the book, also your other book on hiring. We'll be putting a link to that, guys, in the show notes. Chris, where else can people could check out some of your content? I noticed your interviews on your podcast, doing them in person. I'm like, I'm looking forward to be able to do more in-person stuff very, very shortly. But where can we send
Yeah.
people to check out your stuff?
I mean, just chrisducker.com is where everything is. I wouldn't be much of a personal brand mentor if I didn't have my own website. Would I? So, yeah, chrisducker.com and then at Chris Ducker on all the social.
Awesome. Everybody, thank you for listening. Before you go, I want you to think of 2 or 3 people that are looking to build a business and want to help do that with a team. Make sure you share this podcast episode with them. It's valuable for us, myself, Chris, to get out there, get some more exposure, get some more ears, and help some more people. And it's going to be valuable for those who listen. So thanks for listening, and I'll speak to you soon.
Hey YouTube watcher, if you thought that video was good, you should check out this video here on the 2 best types of websites beginners should buy. Or check out my playlist on how I made my first 100K from buying websites and how to do due diligence. Check it out. It's an awesome playlist. You'll enjoy it.